Hi, I'm Leon Oosthuizen,
And I'm Denton.
and we are here with 5 really great Fuji lenses, some of them brand new. And we're going to see how they perform under circumstances that they might not necessarily be used by the majority of people that consider them as lenses to purchase. On my right hand side here is a 10-24 f4 stabilized ultra wide. That gives you a lot of flexibility because it is a zoom lens equivalent to 15 to around about 35 millimeters. We have a prime lens 16 1.4. It's a completely different lens. It's quite close focusing as well, really close focusing to be honest. The third one over here we have is a 35 f2. It's a nice compact, very lightweight, doesn't take up a lot of space in your bag type of lens. Both of these two prime lenses are weather sealed as well, so those are 2 plus points. Dwayne, what have you got on your side?
Well, I've got 2 lovely long lenses here. The first one is the 5140. Equivalent is a 70-200 in the SLR world. Its aperture is about 2.8. And then we have the lovely 100-400, which most people would use for wildlife and sports photography. Both of these 2 lenses are also weather sealed, and both of them are also image stabilized.
So what we expect to find today, well, what we're going to shoot is street and urban. That's the kind of stuff that I'll be going for.
Yes.
See how they perform when we try and shoot architecture. See what it does in high contrast when the sun comes up, maybe when there's a break in the clouds. What will you be doing?
I'll be doing some wedding glamour shots. I've arranged a model and also have 2 dresses to shoot with. And I'm going to take these 5 lenses and then try and simulate a typical day where we shoot a wedding or we do a style shoot or engagement session, and show what you can get with these 5 lenses put in front of us. And I'm also going to be shooting black or white.
Excellent.
Lovely.
Can't go wrong there.
Can't go wrong there.
Hi, so we're back after a fantastic day's worth of shooting. We had a great model and eventually the weather turned out really fantastic. So let's take a look at the lenses and what we found. The first one I think up for discussion would be our wide angle, the 10-24. I found it a tricky lens because it's wider than you might think if you're not used to shooting wide angle. But the moment you start getting close to things, then your foreground starts to be exaggerated and it really starts to build a stage. When I shot inside a cafe, also it opened up a really small space into something that looks a lot larger. And when I had the architecture going, shooting straight up, I found that I could shoot the top of the building as well as the street level. And when I aimed it at a corner, I could shoot both left and right into a 90-degree corner. I could see both ways. I found that really interesting as a angle of view that you don't normally see. You can see both ways, almost like a chameleon. Another thing that I also found with this lens is that when you aim it down, because it's so wide, you can actually include people in the shot while they don't think they're being photographed. So this could actually end up being a really great shot lens for street shots. Oh, and the most important thing I found was that the stabilizing on the lens is so good that I don't have to worry about slower shutter speed. So I had a couple of photographs done at 20th of a second, even down to 15th, and it was 100% fine. It had razor sharp shots, and I was really impressed with the image quality. Straight lines, no aberrations or anything else. What is your impression of the 10-24?
Well, I must say, at first I would thought this would be the lens that I would use the least, but this turned out to be a very surprising lens, Leon. When I put it on my camera and I started looking just through the viewfinder, one thing that caught my eye was how straight the lines was, and especially with these beautiful buildings in the background, having that extra bit of length and width could help me to include more detail and more elements into my photograph. So the one photograph that I remember was really great was right at the corner of the cartel bar with Talita, and where I lift up the camera, and I also think I shot at a 15th of a second with this image stabilizer on. Yeah, the tilt sheen was out as well, and I could get all these beautiful lines running in towards Talita and still get a very crisp and sharp image.
Okay, so the next lens we have here is the 16mm 1.4. This is a lens that I ended up using quite a lot just because it works well in very low light. It's a 1.4 lens and it's close focusing. Another nice feature that I found out about the lens on the shoot was when you pull back on the focus ring over here, it's a manual conversion. So your manual to autofocus is just that little ring that slides over there. So you've got instant control even in really, really low light. And the close focusing, that shot that I did of the bicycle logo on the window,
yes,
I could get insanely close to the window and still have more space to work. So that it was easy to get that focus separation, even with a lens that's equivalent to 24mm on a full frame. That was a great joy to work with this one.
Even in my genre, in wedding photography, this would be an awesome lens if you want to have a wide shot and still get close to the subject you're photographing. For instance, like shoes, and blurring the background out on, say, 1.4, then you can get close without using a macro lens.
Absolutely,
you know, that would be awesome. Yeah.
And it's different from a regular macro lens because normally that would be so close.
Yes.
And macro lenses are typically telephoto, so you don't have much of the background in.
Yes.
With this, you can still include the wedding party or whoever else in the background. Okay, so the next one in the lineup is the 35mm f2. That's that little small one. What is your idea about that? How did you find it?
This lens was really a great lens to use. I could get quite a few varieties of photographs with it, and also still shoot at a very shallow depth of field, 2.8, to get nice blurred images and my subject still in focus. This is quite a nice equivalent to the 50mm that you would get in a DSLR world, and the fact that it's so small, for me as a photographer, I want to try and be not too intrusive into people's lives. I can still get an artistic, depth of field shot with this lens and still be not too intrusive into, whatever I'm photographing.
Yeah. I can totally agree with that. Walking around in the street, what I found is that people don't mind that lens at all. You can aim it straight at them, and because these cameras are compact and they don't take up a lot of physical space, people aren't so intimidated to have that lens point vaguely in that direction. What I've also found about the lens is that how quickly it focuses. My goodness, it just locks onto focus so lightning fast, and it's absolutely quiet. And on the X Pro 2, I've found it's the fastest lens that I've used so far. It's just that good.
Yes.
Another thing is, if I'm not mistaken, it has rounded aperture blades, so that's why even at f2 you get really nice looking bokeh.
Yes.
The background and even the out of focus foreground bits, it separates really nicely without looking too cotton woolly. It doesn't go all hazy.
Yeah.
It's just nicely rendered.
Yeah, I think even for my genre, for wedding photography, this could be a good all-rounder lens to have in your kit bag. You could shoot, your couple shoot with it, your detail shots with it, but also in the evening when it's at the reception, this shooting at f2 or at a low aperture, you can still get that nice and warm, romantic atmosphere that in the background, and still capture people in an artistic way.
Right. Next one up is the 50-140 image stabilized. This is significantly larger than the 35. All of these lenses, by the way, are so well built. You can really feel that it's good glass, metal casings, and it's not a heavy lens at all. Compared to some of the 70-200 competitors, this is actually quite lightweight. Again, this is the 2.8. It's 2.8 all the way through the zoom range, and it's stabilized. So I had no problem holding it at all. I had it in the bag all day, and it never felt that it was weighing me down, never felt heavy. The thing that surprised me most, at f2.8, doesn't matter where I zoomed or how I focused, close or far, it was always sharp, anywhere in the shot. I could put my focus point literally anywhere, and it would focus there instantly, accurately, first time, every time. That was my best impression of the lens, and I could really use this as a professional tool.
This lens was a really great portrait lens for me. I could get in really, really nice and close with Talita and get some nice beauty shots, which is good for, on the wedding day. But also on the wedding day, which you can also do with this lens, is if you're standing a little bit further away, you also don't want to be too intrusive, you can zoom in a little bit to 140 and capture detail from a little bit further away, which gives me more natural photographs, which is my style.
Correct, yes. Another place where I found this lens really useful is grabbing architectural details at a bit of a distance, because normally what you'd have is a kit lens that's on the body, and then when you're close to the building, to get the detail nice and close, you have to be looking up, and then you get that strange perspective distortion, where this seemed to solve that a little bit more. So it helped make to make some architectural abstracts and frame them quite nicely, so I had control over that. Our last lens, Dwayne, what are your impressions there?
The 100-400. Look, it's not your typical lens that I would get as a wedding photographer, but if I had this in my toolkit or in my bag, this would be a really incredible lens to really get some incredible landscape couple shots. What I did today with this lens, I stood a little bit further away and just zoomed in a little bit more, which compressed the background and just brought it a little bit closer to my model, and I could get some really nice details and get those buildings right in the back of the model, just pull it so much closer to the model, which is awesome. So I think definitely this is not just a wildlife photographer or a sports photographer, and yes, it is used in that genre, but I think definitely if you think beyond that, and you can definitely get some incredible photographs.
I have to admit that the most surprising lens of the five was the 100-400. It is not the obvious lens for me to use. It's a tricky focal length to get used to.
Yes.
100 is quite long. 400 is really long, especially on this body. It's closer to 600. Closer to 600, and that's really long. So if you start to work in a close city environment like this, then things become magnified to the extreme degree. Exact opposite of what we had with the 10-24. So where I ended up using this lens to great effect was standing on the bridge shooting back towards the harbour, getting a whole bunch of great details in isolated framing, and pulling them really close towards me. And another way of working with this lens as an urban photographer is to line up a whole bunch of different buildings and comparing the different building styles in one shot. I had another one shot straight from the bridge towards Devil's Peak.
Yes.
And as the sun came out, there was light on the houses on Devil's Peak. Some of the buildings in the foreground that had different architectural styles were in different kinds of light, and I found that a very intriguing way of dealing with depth, because normally you'd either do it with focus or with scale, with size difference, but here everything is sized the same. So that was a really surprising and fun lens to walk around with. And again, that being the biggest Fuji lens, it's still not a heavy lens in your bag. So what would have been, this is a regular, I think 7200 size lens, and now you've got the reach of 600 millimeters in your bag. So I think that is a great lens to use.
Definitely.
So I think that
sums it up.
That sums it up. Thank you very much for watching. It was a fantastic day of shooting and we got some amazing shots. Thank you very much to Orms and Fujifilm South Africa for doing this, and Cartel Bar for hosting us so well.
And I would just like to thank people of my team, Helga Bridal Hair and Makeup for doing the beautiful makeup, Tlalita, the model, for looking awesome. Also just want to thank Cindy Bam for the 2 beautiful dresses, 2 different looks, and also my wife Zani for helping with styling and taking care of some things behind the scenes.